the show. This is it.
Get ready for truth and common sense. Join the Framers View on Rumble.com to be part of the chat. Be sure to click join and follow to help keep the Framer on the air. Watch the replay on theframersview.com or rumble.com.
It's a beautiful day to have a day. We woke up on top of the ground. What more could we ask for? Welcome to Framers View. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you nice ladies. I'm probably not going to say that to the guys. Hope you don't mind. We're going to have a special day today. So, you know what? Corruption is being shown in the bright lights of the day, and that's what I'm talking about today. It is my favorite time right now because we've had so many things occur. We'll talk about all of those. Welcome to the show. Do me a favor, click on follow, click on like, make the show what I hope it to be, which is bigger and better. Be fun to actually make a few bucks doing this, considering how hard we all work. Everybody that's on Rumble works very hard to do their shows, and the support is appreciated. So, got a lot to cover. The seasoning isn't quite right. We'll show you what I'm talking about at that. Dumb people and those who don't recognize Republican growth. There's some interesting stuff going on with that. We'll talk about that. Cost-cutting fight and the reality of waste and abuse. And a judge just told the Trump administration, no. You can't be checking out waste and abuse. Can't be doing that with Democrats. No. Can't, no. I'm a Democrat. I have to say no, or they'll cut my brake lines. And we're not talking about anything other than their cars. So that's an issue. It takes an entrepreneur from Africa, to shut Jamie Raskin down. Got some stuff on that. And also AOC, she's got a way, a big way to solve the problem for the illegals. And Hamas doesn't have a way out. We'll get to that. But first, I think all of you know that, I'm religious. I'm not a complete, religious person, but I believe, I'm a definite believer. What I've gone through my life and how I survived made it very clear you don't do this on your own. And so there's a conundrum in the world of things, and that is the death sentence, the death penalty. And, there's people that are just bad, that have done egregious things, serial killers, people who have just gone to the bottom of the earth and destroyed things. And there's a reason for them to go away. To put them in jail forever. I've got a good friend that was the warden at Supermax. And, his comment is Supermax does nothing but destroy them to the point where they can't even exist. They're in a room for 23 hours every day for the rest of their lives. They never talk to anyone. The food comes through a little slot. They have no interaction. When they get that hour to go outside, it's basically a cage that they walk out into, the way I understand it. And there's nobody else out there to talk to. I can't imagine that. When I go backpacking, I haven't done it in a long time. As I've gotten older, it's just not safe to do the places I go. But, just sitting there, reading a book, doing whatever for a day or two, at your campsite, walking to different places. I'd always set up a base camp, at 10,500 or 11,000 feet, where there's a few trees still left, and just go looking around, spending the day. But then there's a point where you kind of go, I kind of like to be around people. I did one time, I did it a very long period of time. It was really nice to get back to the car. But to be in prison and know there's no way out, that's a whole different situation. So this whole thing with the death penalty, I struggle with. What I really struggle with is a guy in Texas that just was put to death last night. And while he was in prison waiting for his execution, he says he found Jesus, he found God. He prays, he did all those things. He admitted that he killed those people, and he even said he didn't regret doing it because he's a lunatic. But they put him to death by injection, and he says he can't wait to be able to see what it's like in heaven. And you think to yourself, in the Bible that if you confess your sins and you believe in God, you'll go to heaven. I don't want this to be a preacher. I'm not looking for that. But for them to be able, that person to be able to, if there is a heaven, go there, I don't know. That's my sermon for today. I looked at that story, I read that story, and I just thought, what a challenge for anybody to accept. That's it. So J.D. Vance went to Germany. He went to the, what's it called? It was the Munich Security Conference. And, the European Union is now cutting out all the people that are left, extreme left and extreme right. You're not allowed to be there. And I find that stunningly impossible that kind of a thing could occur. Clearly, it does and can. But how and why? Why would they? European Union has, for all intents and purposes, been pretty realistic with the way they are and what they do and how they do things and being free speech. This is crazy. J.D. Vance, he lets the European Union and the Munich Security Conference have it. They're censoring the far left, they said, and they have fallen way behind us. And it's really true. I mean, this is an example. We've had a number of years now where we've watched America just kind of doing this, just going down and down and down to a point where you just kind of go, is there any hope? And there is hope. And it's Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and all of the people that are working with and for him. And it makes a huge difference. It makes a difference in two ways. One is it makes people feel better about America. But the other part of it is it gives us hope for the younger generation. And Gen X or Gen Z, I don't know which one it is right now. It's so confusing. But they are putting themselves out there in a whole different way. Bible sales have gone through the roof. The younger generation is now talking about having a family, getting married, having a family, making a family life. And they don't understand why their parents, the older generation, is not supporting that. They've seen all of this stuff and they're going, wait a minute. And you might recall hundreds of shows ago when I talked about the fact there will be a time when the younger people look at the older generation and wonder why we're acting that way. Well, guess what? Here we are. Here we are. We are now in a spot where the people who are the older generation are looked down on by the younger generation as saying, why wouldn't I want to have children? Why wouldn't I want to be married? Which is against even AOC's belief, we can't have kids because we're bringing them into a world that's going to end. AOC told us that. So where do we stop from here? No, we're not going to stop. And I think, we all have opinions, just like we all have, you know the story. I'm doing a joy. All had it. Well, I can't say it, but I did. The point is that there's a time when people look at the older generation and go, what are they doing? This isn't making any sense. And you hope it'll happen. And now we're starting to see it. And I hope that it will continue and that the success will continue. And I believe it will. I think that there's a strong possibility that we'll see this grow and grow and grow with people who trust and believe in America because of Trump, because of J.D. Vance, because of governors. I mentioned Glenn Youngkin. I mentioned Ron DeSantis. I mentioned other governors and other senators and Congress people who are walking away from the craziness. And the public that are voting for those people, they get into office because they're in favor of it. So that's where we are right now. And where will it go and how will it not necessarily end, but how will we continue? Well, we'll find out. So, all right, on with the show. It's Friday. And of course, on Friday, Marie and I always talk about what are we going to have for dinner this weekend. We're busy during the week, and so we don't really, make big meals and do fancy stuff or anything during the week. And then on the weekends, we do the steaks and the pork chops and the chickens and the different things and smoke things and cook things. So, this weekend, we're planning our weekend, and seasoning is one of the big things that I like to do, especially when I'm doing my smoking with whatever type of smoke I'm doing for the time or the weekend. But there's seasoning that other people are involved in. Think about that. Not just Neil Frame with the Framer's View. Well, there's a guy that actually, he wasn't concerned about the seasoning. The person that was there eating was concerned about the seasoning, and he didn't like it. And I have evidence of this. Watch it. So this is out in the ocean. Guy's on his kayak. And then, what did we just see? That was a whale. And the whale spit him out. And this guy, look at this. Look at this. He was brought into his mouth, and he spit him out. The seasoning wasn't right. And there it was, done. And he was saved. And later, you can see this guy with the other guy with his boat coming up there and getting him and protecting him. I don't know about you, but that is a miracle. It's a miracle that guy survived. I don't even know what that could seem like. The story is he said, he never knew it. He said he just got sucked in. I mean, basically a whale opens up his mouth like most fish, and they just swim into whatever they want to eat. And except for sharks, they play a little different game, and a few other high teeth type predators. But I watched that and I thought, you got to see this. He's thanking his lucky stars. He was someplace in another country. You could hear the foreign language going on. It seemed to me it was Peru or some area like that that he was in. But there you have it. So Trump is so busy signing executive orders. And I said yesterday, one of the things we have to do, we must do, we have to take these executive orders and turn them into legislation. If we don't do that, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big problem. And so as Trump signs these things, as I've said, one of the dumbest people in the news who's a White House spokesperson, not spokesperson, but White House correspondent, had to ask him a question while he was doing the thing on tariffs. And I'll show this first, and then we'll talk about it. But the way Trump handles it today, as opposed to the way he handled it in the first administration, is very different, number one. And number two, well, we'll talk about this afterwards. Just watch this.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
Shut her up.
I'd like to see peace.
Do you trust President
I
Biden?
believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down like demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people. When they knocked down those cities and they're all laying down on the side, they're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. They literally look like a world-class demolition site. And many of them, almost all of them, but many of them, and this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know
He went on to say, I know he's a friend of yours and CNN, and nobody watches you because they don't trust you. He had to put that dig in. I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, it's true. I've mentioned that their audience would fit pretty much in my studio. They don't have anybody watching them anymore. And you would think they'd want to make a difference. Now, Caitlin Collins, in fairness, was starting to ask a question, and all he did was say, I haven't called on anybody yet. He was trying to hold up the document that he had just signed, and he didn't want to have questions yet. Now, before that, he'd basically tell her to shut up. I'm not talking to you, and I probably am not going to talk to you. But he's calmed way down. I'm proud of him for that. In addition to that, really proud of him in the way he had a news conference, not this one we just saw, but one before that. And Maria and I were talking about how there's not a chance that Biden could have pulled these things off. He could never do an impromptu question and answer, as they call it, Q&A. He couldn't have handled that. Everybody knows that. The truth is finally coming out. But Trump is so capable. There's nothing he's reading. He's answering questions. They hit him with a number of different questions about different issues, and he just answers them. He is up to date with everything. Like his butler said in an interview, he never sleeps. He's constantly involved. He's constantly keeping track. We are very fortunate to have gotten him back. And for those who don't believe that, well, I'm sorry. When's the rest of your aliens coming down from space? Because you have to recognize what your problem is and why Trump is in there, because of what you have lost sight of, Democrats. So it's just the way it is. So another little piece of this puzzle is, you might remember at the Super Bowl interview that Bret Baier did with Trump, one of the things he was asked was about, JD as vice president becoming the next president. Do you think he'll do that? And Trump said no, which immediately I thought, wow. But then he followed that up with, we're 3 weeks in to office here. We don't know how he's going to do, what he's going to do. He's doing a great job. He said that. But he never over-projects. He really doesn't. Not everything. 95% of the things he said ever since 2015, and honestly, way before that, have come true. Things that he said about presidential situations back in the 80s and 90s, when he was very young, and he was very wise. And now he's saying, there's going to be a lot of qualified people that may want to run. He's not influencing the process. Will J.D. Vance be the guy? Right now, I think he probably has the strength to be able to do it because of the things he's doing. We'll see. We'll see. But Whatley, who was the campaign manager along with Laura Trump, got in the middle of that and had some comments about that. Watch this.
See J.D. Vance as its future.
He certainly is going to be part of the future for this party for a long time, but we also have a great bench. You know, when you look at who we have in the Senate, look at our governors, look at who we have in the House, look who we have in the cabinet. We have a lot of people that are very, very capable of being leaders throughout the country. I love the bench that we have right now. And you think about where we are with the Democrats, the party is absolutely imploding because they didn't just have bad messengers, they had a bad message. And right now, as long as the Republican Party is going to be focused on Donald Trump's agenda, the America First agenda, then we're going to continue to listen to the voters, we're going to put solutions on the table for them, and we're going to...
Wow. It's really pretty amazing. I mean, if you've ever gone from give you an example, most of you people that watch the show have seen or heard about different companies that they worked for or you worked for, where it was a mess. And it was always chaotic in the fact of nobody knew what to do. Nobody really took care of anything. Things were not being handled. Customers were upset, whatever those cases were. And you move to a different company and they are buttoned up and they get things done and they have expectations and they have certain things you have to do to meet your goals, and everybody's working tightly together. And you go, this is cool. This is cool. If you actually want to work. Well, that's what this administration is doing. This administration is going step by step by step, handling things that Trump said he was going to do. And he knows he has 2 years at best, hopefully 4 years, to effect changes that will make a difference for many generations ahead. And we are so lucky to have that. I don't know. So while that's going on, there's always another side of this story, right? While that's going on, and while these people are reality being crazy in the House and the Senate on the Democrat side, I've got two examples that really tell the story of why they are not getting elected. This first one is Maxine Waters. I talk about the dumbest press person, and that's a real competition. And there's a real competition on the Democrat side in Congress and the House and the Senate also. But Maxine Waters is really right there, ahead of everybody. When you see this, she's talking about Elon Musk, of course, because that's all she can talk about, because he's got a great big rental space in her head, along with a few other people, Jamie Raskin and other people. But it is so clear that they've lost their minds. Watch this video. We'll talk about this on the other side. But this is, first of all, Maxine Waters basically calling out Elon Musk, which is probably a bad choice. But the other part of it is when Jim Jordan is talked to about this. So we'll watch it, talk about it on the other side.
Elon Musk want to get rid of all of this because he's a thief. He's a gangster. This is our country, and we're not going to let Elon Musk have it. He can't have it. So, Elon, come here and face us. Bring your ass on over here.
Okay, the bloated government is the main tool that Ms. Waters and other apparatchiks like her use to harm and control our people.
Yeah.
They really don't want to give up any of their power, do they?
No, think about this. Their position is, instead of stopping the stupid spending, we're going to attack the guy who exposed the stupid spending. That makes no sense. Most Americans think wait a minute. We were spending money, take USAID. We were spending money on some transgender comic in Ireland. We were spending money on putting Sesame Street on TV in Iraq. Most Americans think really? I think instead of having Bert and Ernie and Big Bird on TV in Baghdad, maybe we should do something different with Americans' tax dollars. And Elon Musk points that out. And so what do? They go after the guy who was just bringing out common sense things that we should do and not spend money in these ridiculous ways. So they can keep doing it. I think most Americans think, I kind of like what Elon Musk is doing, and I certainly do.
Yeah.
And I think his team, by the way, the president's ahead of the executive branch. His team are every bit as much federal employees as the experts at the Treasury Department or USAID or the Department of Education, every bit as much. And the president told us he was going to do this, and the American people voted for it. Now that it's happening, it's terrible. Give me a break.
Give me a break is right. He makes a very good point. All of these people that work in the government that are managing, how about the guy that makes the payments? All of these payments, they're worried about Elon Musk being able to see what payments are made. How about the guy that's making the payments? Has he been elected? No. See, they're going to tell you only what you're supposed to hear according to them. You've heard me say they tell a story, but they don't tell the story. They can't. If you're, okay, I'm gonna use another company thing. Sorry, I use life experiences sometimes to describe what I mean. Every time I went to do a turnaround for a company, and I did that a long time as a consultant, every time I went into there, I would see these things that were so obvious that they were doing wrong. So obvious that they knew they were spending too much money. They knew that they were making wrong decisions for their sales department or for their servicing department or whatever type of thing that they were involved in. And to me, on the outside, I would like, you're paying too much money. You're spending too much on this and this. You're still using something that's costing you twice the amount of money because you're not up to date. All of those kind of things. And you realize that somebody is getting kissed for doing that, or they're just not paying attention. Well, we have both those things happening in the government. We're spending money like drunken Democrats. And at the same time, nobody's overseeing it, really. They have oversight, but they're not really watching it. Then Elon Musk comes in, and we're pointing out corruption. Now the Democrats are going to start screaming. We found out, we had our buddy that had gold bars in his freezer. He's out now. We've had other Republicans and Democrats that have gotten into trouble for corruption. Corruption only goes so far if people are watching. If there's no watching, then you see these billions, hundreds of billions, what will probably turn out to be trillions of dollars that we're just wasting. And we're not talking about 10 years. We're talking about trillions now. We're $37 trillion in the hole. I mean, I don't think anybody that's watching this show is $1 trillion in debt. Maybe. I don't know. As bad as it's been for the last 4 years, it could be possible. But so she's crazy, Maxine Waters, calling him a mafia guy, calling him a thug, Elon Musk, and she doesn't get it. She's worth millions through her corruption, but she's not worth more money than the richest man in the world. He doesn't need any help. His investments make him hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to do anything to make money. His earned income from all of his investments will do that for him. I remember, long ago, everybody donated money to Bill Gates for his things that he not invests in, but gives to. And he gave Warren Buffett was one of them, actually. And he gave away like half of his money. He's now worth more than he was before he gave the money away. When you have that kind of money, you just can't spend it all. Elon Musk doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to take money from anybody. And Trump still has to make the decision whether those things are being stopped. But that's not what our buddy Robert Garcia says. He's calling for the Democrats to start bringing weapons into this.
I think that calling Elon Musk is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government.
Well, he is. And I think that he's also harming the American public in an enormous way. And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight for democracy, for the future of this country. And it's important to push back on the tyranny.
Pause for an opportunity for you to think about that. He called for them to bring weapons. I got an idea he didn't mean bring your AR-14, 15, 16, your pistol, your whatever. I don't think that's what he was asking for, really. But here's the thing. He is asking for violence, basically. People don't want that. People recognize what that means. I think this is a guy that, and by the way, what he called Musk is what he is. It's all, when they talk about when somebody points at you, you have three fingers pointing back at you. He's projecting what he is, and he's dangerous. He's dangerous to our. They should censure him. They really should. I don't know if somebody's going to do something about that, but it may happen. That was on CNN. So with that happening, I talked to you yesterday about the things that are going on. Ayanna Pressley, bringing up reparations again. Well, who are we going to give them to? We're going to give it to American Indians? How about them? They're probably the most abused people of all. They were wiped out. I mean, blacks were abused. They weren't killed left and right by the thousands. That's what we did to American Indians. How about the Japanese that were imprisoned here in the United States when World War II started? I mean, we had to control that, but they could ask for reparations. She's trying to cause a cover-up for what's really happening. This is what we have to understand and recognize. So with that said, now we talk about what did Biden say when he left office? I'm leaving the country with an economy that's better than it's ever been, which in itself is just insane. But check this out. The inflation dragon rears its ugly head again. We hate to say we told you so, but yesterday, inflation report was worse than the common headline that the media buried it. They haven't said a word. The headline should have been that for the month, prices were up on an annualized basis by closer to 6%. This is Unleashed Prosperity, which is really pretty much a middle of the road group. They kind of just stay in the financial area, but they're smart. For the past 3 months, on the heels of the last Fed rate cut, it's up 4.5%. So much for the Biden narrative that it left Trump with a strong economy, when the government is on the path to another $2 trillion overspending deficit. This, ladies and germs, is what I've talked about. When they were talking about doing a rate cut, I said to you I should find the piece on the video. I said to you, this is not the time to cut the rate. I wanted to see the rate cut as much as anybody. This is not the time to do it. They did it anyway. And now inflation is up. Now you got people like Hakeem Jeffries, what a jackass he is, saying, well, inflation's up, it didn't go down. Trump hasn't done a thing. It's February. He got into the office on the 20th of January, you moron. Just in case you didn't check, that's less than a month ago. It takes time. I will remind you that I said specifically that Ronald Reagan didn't have his significant increase in the economy coming from Carter, where we were at 18 to 20% interest and inflation. He was getting ready to start his second term campaign before that had really started. It takes time. It's just like gas prices. Gas prices go up, they come down really slow, always. Prices go up in the grocery stores. They come down really slowly. But the price of eggs won't matter because you can't get any. Sorry. Somebody wants to talk to me, but they don't get to. So now we've got an economy that we're looking at, and what are the Republicans going to do about the budget? Because we got to resolve the budget problem. We have to. So what are we going to do? Well, we won't be fooled again. The House Budget Committee will mark up a budget resolution today that includes the Trump cut extensions. Yay! This is in the sharp contrast to the Senate version, that includes 0 tax cuts under the body's dangerous plan to scrap the Trump one big beautiful bill strategy and punt the tax issue until later in the year. Thank you, Democrats. That's not happening just with the Democrats, though. That has to be including the Republicans, or otherwise it wouldn't happen. This is what we've got going on. Kudos to the House Republicans for moving quickly on tax cuts, but they are foolishly tethering themselves to an absurdly wrong Congressional Budget Office score that says making the tax cuts permanent will cost more than $4 trillion. This is Stephen Moore talking about this. These are the same math geniuses who told us in 2017, pay attention to this, that the Trump tax cuts would cost $2 trillion, when by the end of 2024, revenues are higher than if we hadn't passed the tax cuts at all. This is the OMB, the Budget of Office Management. They don't look at everything. They just look at what it's going to cost. They don't look at what revenue is generated. They have evidence. They have precedents of what has occurred in the past. Ronald Reagan, a little bit Dwight Eisenhower, not to the level we didn't have to the level we are now. But this is what he did. And he created this revenue stream that what the cost of cutting taxes was overridden by the revenue that was brought in. Or you can just keep the taxes going and just keep going down to a deep hole. That's really what it's all about. It's just silliness to think anything otherwise. It's total silliness. And by the way, the taxes and this, tax cuts for the rich, just in case people don't understand this, let's say you lower the taxes 3%. Well, everybody that pays taxes will pay 3% less. Now, the rich people, that 3% is a bigger number, right? I'm talking to you like you're kindergartners, and you're not. You understand it. But I have liberals watching this show because I get the emails. So they say they're cutting the taxes for the rich. Everybody's getting the cut. But if you make 100,000 as opposed to 100 million, That 3% is a different number, right? You morons. Why would somebody cut taxes for only one group of people? Because here's the thing. When I'm going to give you an example, everybody loves TikTok, except for me and a few others. I go to it. I've used some of their videos about, I think, 4 or 5 times. It's just impossible for me to watch. But here's the thing. TikTok, they want to get rid of because Chinese have ownership in it, and we know that they're basically watching everything we do. But there's a possibility that some people are going to come along, Kevin O'Leary is one of them, that want to buy TikTok. Well, if we don't have those rich people, TikTok's going to go away because they're talking it could be $500 billion to $1 trillion to buy TikTok, which is an absurd number. But that could happen. And O'Leary and a number of other people will put their money together and buy it. And why is that? That's because there's a bunch of people that use TikTok that they use it for their business. They use it for their growth. They make money off of that. It's an opportunity business. And these people that have the money recognize that, and they're going to put money in there to be able to build it up and to make money for them and have the resources for those people that are on TikTok to make money. When we talk about trickle-down economics, this is an example of that. We save TikTok. We spend whatever it costs to do it. We keep it going. Everybody that's on TikTok that's making money will continue to make money, including the investors. Trickle down. And the Democrats don't get it, including Jamie Raskin. He's one of my favorite rascals. You know, we got Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin, some of these women, I don't even know their names, Stephanie somebody. They're all stupid. But Raskin makes some comments about why we're looking at things. And then a young lady that comes from Africa, that is an entrepreneur in the United States, that's a citizen of the United States now, is talking about regulation. But he had his whole purpose of bringing her into this meeting, into this congressional meeting, was to talk about regulation. But that's not what he wanted to talk about. And she lets him have it. Watch this.
We really need to hire a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk to go out and do it for us.
My name is Magat Wade. I'm a Senegalese-American entrepreneur. I've been living in the U.S. since 1998, and I became a U.S. citizen in 2018. I'm also an author of The Heart of a Cheetah, a book that talks about African entrepreneurship and prosperity. Mr. Raskin, your words earlier really, really worried me, and I will tell you why. When you say we are here, and we should be here to talk about Mr. Elon Musk and all the unconstitutional things that he's doing, and you said we shouldn't be here to talk about regulation or anything like that, first of all, I want to say, then why did you have me here? As an entrepreneur, my time is valuable. I came here because I thought we were going to talk about the regulatory state and why it matters. So you need to make up your mind on that, and I'm deeply offended by what you said there. Furthermore, I would tell you why I came when I was invited to speak on this. Because right now, everybody in this country, these issues of regulation, overregulation, has been made into a matter of partisanship. Are you from the left or are you from the right? I don't care. Because where I come from, the overregulation causes us to be where we are. My continent, Africa, is the poorest region in the world today because it happens to be the most overregulated region in the world. So if you don't see the value of overregulation, if you need and want to wait until this country becomes like most African countries, I don't know. I love this country and I don't want to see it go down there. And also, just so you know, what does overregulation mean for regular people? It means death, literally. People are packing themselves into little fishermen's boats, trying to leave nations that are overregulated, therefore no jobs, and then they have to leave and go seek jobs.
Yay, yay, yay for her. First of all, she comes from Africa. It's a mess. A mess. She gets her citizenship in 2018. She's an entrepreneur and articulate and is speaking our language and is able to pretty much dress Jamie Raskin down. Not pretty much. She did. Talking about regulation. Talking about all the reasons why, I don't know, U.S. Steel struggles with being competitive with China and with Vietnam and other places that steel is made. Well, the reason is the regulation to be able to make steel, roll steel, for an example, is so onerous that they can't be competitive. Just the insurance, all of the lawsuit possibilities, if you do anything just a little bit wrong, even if you don't do something wrong, somebody's going to sue you or try to kill you because you're making money. And she's not going to have any of it. Speaking of not having anything of it, I watched this video and I had to share it with you. All of us have had enough of AOC. But what's more important is her entire process of training illegals on how to get away from ICE. This is a person in Congress. We all know about her. But she's got some people helping her with this, doing a Zoom meeting about how to keep ICE from getting you. She was on Fox and Friends in the morning. Watch this.
Congresswoman AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, resisting President Trump's deportation agenda, coordinating a seminar, a webinar, offering tips to avoid ICE agents in her district.
ICE agents will go to homes early in the morning to make arrests. They'll stop people on the street or in public places, which could include a public area of a workplace.
They either want to deceive you into thinking that they're not ICE, or they lie so that you come to believe that they do have a right to enter.
So if you're stopped on the street by...
I'm going to stop here because you need to see this. This is what you're supposed to say to ICE. You may ask if you're free to go. If you are, go. You have the right to remain silent. You don't give false documents. That's classic. This is the recommendations from the trainers on AOC's Zoom meeting, basically. They ask to voluntarily search you. You do not have to give them permission. You have the right to refuse to give your fingerprints. I'll continue, but think about this. These are our Americans going against the government. And are we going to do something about this?
The first thing you have the right to do is to ask, am I free to go? Am I being detained? And if the answer is yes, then you can leave.
But tell that to the voters just outside of her district protesting a mega shelter for migrants scheduled to open up later this month. Joining us now is chairman of the New York Young Republicans Club's Bronx Caucus, Christopher Reed. Christopher, welcome to Fox. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we wanted to have you on because you've done these protests, and we want to ask you about that. But first, what is your response when you hear what's happening in your district? You're in AOC's congressional district. This was a webinar. She didn't even show up for it, first of all. She could have done it from her bedroom, because it's on Zoom.
Yes.
What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, being that she wasn't there, I think is a good testament to how little she actually cares about her constituents. It's one thing to give people advice on how to evade the law, is essentially what she's doing. But it's another thing to do that and then not show up to the webinar that you're supposedly, all about.
She wasn't even there. Of course, she never goes back to where she represents. A prostitution-soiled, crime-soiled piece of land in the borough. I don't know which one she's in. She doesn't care. She's all about becoming rich in politics, which is the problem. And that's what's happening. But you got to wonder, is DOJ going to go after these people that are doing this? They're literally helping to hide illegals. You can't do that. It's like harboring a fugitive, basically. Well, they are fugitives because they're illegally in the country. But this is what's happening, and people have to wake up. Just wake up. I know about a group that has woken up, awakened, and guess who that is? Hamas, because they have no way out. This is Friday. Tomorrow, you know it's Friday. By the way, it's Valentine's Day. Guys, if you didn't do anything yet, sneak out of the office, go buy something, get her something nice, you know. Don't get in trouble. But anyway, Hamas is in a real spot. Tomorrow, if they don't release all the prisoners, all of the people they've been holding, there's going to be hell to pay, according to Trump. We don't know what that's going to mean. But watch this video. We'll talk about it on the other side.
The condition of the hostages gets worse and worse as they produce them. Hamas understands that there is no way out of this except their end. And so we have to just see how they're going to play this. You know, President Trump was very, very serious, and I took his ultimatum to be right on the mark, and it was backed up by Prime Minister Netanyahu. So one way or another, Hamas is either going to come out and surrender and give us all the hostages, and that is a Saturday deadline, by the way, or they're going to get to meet members of a very special force that we know from a place that's been renamed Fort Bragg, and it won't go well for them. So one way or another, we're going to get whatever hostages we can get out. The United States-Israel alliance is put back in place. The Ayatollah is in real trouble, and there is a great path once we get past this to restore peace to the region via a demilitarization.
That's so true. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. Tomorrow is going to be a huge news day. Saturdays usually isn't huge. But this Saturday will be, I think. It probably won't happen on Saturday because the time change and all those kind of things. And, you know, Trump's going to have to load the weapons. I don't know. He'll probably go with them over there and take out Hamas. Who knows? I mean, he's everywhere all the time. That's the only way to look at that. So we'll find out, but there's no way out. And then you ask the question, well, okay, so we're going to have this Gaza Strip that is destroyed, the same as Israel. A lot of it's destroyed. And of course, you got to consider Ukraine and Russia, who have been decimated by war. Thank you, Joe Biden. And he's going to want to do things. And Gaza is a good example. Well, how in the world are the Palestinian people going to be able to make it through this? When I say this, the damage that occurred and what it's going to take to rebuild. That's a big call and big action. Well, a guy named Trump says Russia agrees to immediately begin negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. I bring this story out for a reason. How is there going to be a rebuild? Well, it's the same with Russia, and it's going to be the same thing with Gaza. The Gaza Strip, Trump's already said, we need to make the Riviera of the Middle East. We need to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations, Trump posted on a Truth Social on Wednesday. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of our conversation, something which I will be doing right now. Now, let me point this out. This is Trump after he talked to Putin, and the Democrats are having a coronary over the fact that he's done that. This is how politics works. This is how negotiation works. These are the things you do to make a difference. So he sends his people over there, sets it up. Trump calls says, hey, we want to do negotiations. He calls Zelensky, says, hey, we want to do negotiations. They both say yes, and they're going to bring them together. That's the way this game works. Pretty simple. Not really simple. I've asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of CIA John Ratcliffe, Senior Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiation, which I feel strongly will be successful. Wow is the only word I can use. This is a guy that wastes no time. And while the Democrats are saying, well, nothing's happened yet, what do you mean nothing's happened yet? Nothing's happened yet of what you want, which is to destroy America. He wants to save America and make everybody that watches this show and watches every other show on Rumble and lives in this country that works and wants to have a happy life. That's what Trump's about. Pretty simple, right? That's what he's going to do. So, with that said, watch this.
No other alternative other than what President Trump is proposing for the rebuilding of Gaza and the restoration of peace in that region. What do you think?
The Abraham Accord is going to be used as and this is the predicate to put the band back together. I think, again, Chris, as I mentioned, commerce is the language of peace. One of the things we can do is help develop that region. That's an amazing area of real estate. That's what Donald Trump has done his entire life, build things. So the Arab leaders who were there recognized the potential to remove this permanent grievance called the Palestinians and actually do something to enrich the region and all the countries there. This is all very good.
Very good. We're going to continue to see winning, 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 winning. And, you know, as we come to the end of the week and we've, you know, I think I'm on my 202nd show that I've been doing. And we take a look at where we were last year, year before, and where we are now. People are happier. You talk to people, you don't even have to bring up politics. There's there's a little bit of spring in their step. They don't even know that. They don't even realize it. You go to places and you see them, there's a happier pace, I guess would be the way to put it. And personally, I'm really thankful for that. Now, I have a comedy piece for you. Comedy is a relative term. Some of it can be exasperating. Some of it can be silliness. Or maybe you can just make fun of somebody because you don't like them. And in this case, it's The View and Whoopi Goldberg, who I will say, ironically, is about to make fun of somebody's name by a person, her name is Whoopi. Watch this.
So yesterday, Elon Musk took his son X to a press conference. I did not name the child. And I don't want to hear any more mess about our names, okay? Okay?
Oh.
Anywho, he took little X.
Funny. A little Instagram.
He doesn't own Instagram. He doesn't own Instagram. He just took little X with him to a press conference in the Oval Office to defend himself against critics who say he should not have the power to gut.
Well, first of all, what a classic shot, seeing X on top of Elon's shoulders. I wonder if that's ever happened. Probably the closest would be John Kennedy when he had his kids underneath the desk. They have photos of that. But to have somebody come in with their kid on his shoulders, I mean, that is so classic. And that tells you just how much Elon Musk is more than just a rich guy. He cares about his kids. He cares about what is going on in this world. He cares about the spending, the influence that he has and he takes advantage of to make America better, to make America rich again. Everybody. You know, let me just say this. If you're a mother with 2 kids, divorced, don't make a lot of money, and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to buy groceries? Donald Trump will cause 2 things along with Elon Musk. One, will figure out how to lower cost on things to buy. And 2, you're going to make more money and you'll pay less taxes. If you pay any, if you don't make much money, you may not pay any taxes, but you're going to have a better situation for your family. That's what Trump's about. So, a little announcement. Marie, my wife, is going into surgery Tuesday. I will be here Monday. But I want to notify you now that I will probably be setting up certain shows for you to be able to see next week. I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back. She's having major 10-hour back spine surgery. This is not a simple deal. So I don't know how much I'm going to have to be away. Her surgery is on Tuesday. Her surgery starts at 7 in the morning. We're going to be there at 5. I'm not going to be there. Not going to be here for the show. I will be here Monday. We're going to do the show and we'll update you on what's happening with all of these things with the Hamas situation, a number of other things. But I just want to warn you, that's what's going to happen. Take your crayon right now and write something down. Anytime you want to see my previous shows, and I try to put the date in each one of them, it'll show the season, the episode, and the date. It'll say what that date that is, and you'll be able to jump into the show that you want to see by going to rumble.com/FramersView, and that'll take you to my site where all my shows are. Not all of them. They only hold a certain number, but you'll see the most recent, about 25 or 30. So, but I'll be here Monday, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Until then, have an awesome weekend and carry on.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.